In this episode of My Words, My Book, we have Kelechi Okafor. Kelechi is a Nigerian-born Londoner, a writer, presenter, social commentator, and tour de force in challenging how we think about race, oppression, and femininity. Although Kelechi wears many hats, the head those hats are stylishly perched upon is one filled with incisive observations about society, culture, and specifically Black womanhood. Kelechi, why did you become an author?
I became an author by accident. I think I've always had something to say, had to figure out the right things to say, the kind things to say. And I remember a friend reaching out to me on social media one day and saying, "You need to stop talking for free." And I thought, what? So you share all of your thoughts online. Why don't you think about getting them into some kind of form, some kind of blog or article, and go from there? And that same person suggested, they were asked to write something for one of the newspapers, and they said, "Oh, no, I think Kelechi should do it instead." And that started the whole thing of me writing and writing for different publications. And then I was approached, I think, by Sarita Domingo, who's now my editor at Trapeze. And she said, "Why don't you contribute to this anthology that we're putting together, Love Stories by Women of Color?" And I thought, why not? So I wrote that. It came very easily to me because my imagination was already in that space. I'm always communicating something. So it was more about learning the craft of how to write. And I started thinking about the young people because they really need us. They really need our thoughts. They really need our imagination in order to help theirs. And I thought, yeah, why don't I try writing a picture book? And so it's all been by accident and by chance and a bit of why not.
Exactly, and I would say what you're really good at, you are a storyteller. And that's it. So, in terms of being a storyteller, verbally you share stories, and then in the written form with your books
Yes.
as well. So, in terms of growing up as a child, did you always have was storytelling central in your family, sharing different stories about, culture? Because I know that was part of my childhood. There was different stories. My mum would say, "Oh, I remember your great grandfather said this," and sharing those oral stories, which I think we do as a culture,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's it. We do pass on our histories, that oral culture, having the griots, the orators who would share these rich histories with us and create something new of the present. I used to love the Anansi stories as well. They, having a message, something allegorical. I really loved that. But for me, unfortunately, there wasn't much, I would say, storytelling in my family per se. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria, and then I moved to the UK, moved to London when I was 5. And childhood was very, very tough. It wasn't easy. I felt othered. I felt like an outsider a lot of the time, especially arriving in the UK and having an accent and people making fun of my Nigerian accent and things like that. And I remember my stepdad saying to me one day, I was speaking in Yoruba because that was, as I knew how to speak English, but that was my comfortable first language. And he said, "You're in London now, you're in England now, so you're going to need to stop with all of that." And in that moment, I thought, I need to learn English. I need to learn it well. I think I've always had maybe that drive to be really good at whatever it is I'm giving my attention to. So it started with the Biff and Chip books, and I would just read and read. And so, because my childhood wasn't great, I needed a rich imaginary world. And so I think that that's what really helped me with storytelling. I needed to create for myself a different reality, and one that was safer somewhat than the reality that I was, that I was, inhabiting. And books really helped me with that. They helped me to realize form and structure and how to tell stories. And I would naturally gravitated towards drama, at school. So I would be in all the school plays. That gave me something to do. That gave me some respite. And it just, all of those things seem to come naturally to me, as you say, the storytelling in that sense, being invited to be in all of the school plays and things like that. And that carried on all throughout school. And I think that that's what it was. The storytelling came as a result of me needing to create a better story for myself.
Absolutely. And one of the points you mentioned there about your stepfather saying to you, you need to speak English, and that resonated with myself because my parents are from St. Lucia in the Caribbean and they speak Creole, part of the Windrush generation. And when they came here, they said they had a conversation that their children were not going to speak Creole because they wanted us to fit in. My mum regrets it now. We do because we don't know that language. Although I know the odd word, there's a lot of things that I understand, but to speak it fluently. So we were denied that because they felt we needed to fit in, which research informs us children who speak 2-3 different languages do better academically. So any child that's watching this, please hold on to your culture and to your language. It is so important. And I cannot stress that enough. So when I go into school visits, this is one of the things that I talk about in terms of your identity is super important, and that language. And now when I do go to St. Lucia and I'm hearing that language, it's quite a sing-songy type language and certain words, it's there because it was within the family home. And as I said, my mum regrets it now. So important for children to hold on to their identity. And now I think for some children, it's more of an acceptance. And I think with books, it's a fantastic way of saying to children, it's okay to be you.
Yes.
Don't be ashamed to be you, and your culture is important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think children need reminding of that, definitely. And adults too. I remember a time when I was growing up and it wasn't trendy, fashionable, cool to admit that you were from the continent of Africa. You know, you would find that people who were from probably the same township or wherever that I was from in Lagos would say, "Oh, I'm from the Caribbean." No, you're not. But there was a certain amount of assimilation and integration that happened with Caribbean communities, even though we still faced challenges in the UK. There was certain kind of acceptances that had already taken place that hadn't quite taken place for West Africans specifically. So people would feel uncomfortable saying that they were from West Africa and they would just make things up. And now I think due to what's happened in terms of pop culture and Afro beats and things like that, it's really trendy now to be Nigerian, and people are wearing it more proudly now, talking about jollof rice, talking about the food, different aspects of the culture. We're seeing more artists coming through. We're seeing more designers, fashion designers, so many different people coming through now. And so I think there is that reminder that maybe you're a Wellington boot. And sometimes in life, when you're a Wellington boot and there's no mud, there's no rain, you don't feel like you make sense. But
Beautiful.
but one day you're gonna make sense because there's gonna be a bit of mud, there's gonna be a bit of rain. So maybe you're a Wellington boot. And I think that that's what I found for myself, that I think I'm a Wellington boot.
To add on anything onto that in terms of identity, growing up, reading storytelling, etc.
Yeah, I think that having that idea, thinking about myself as a Wellington boot, wanting to develop the idea so children know as well that it's okay to be different. Sometimes I think, not necessarily wrongly, in our society, we talk about we're all the same, we are all the same. And actually, we're not. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay for us to be different. That's the beauty of life, to meet difference and to meet difference with compassion, to meet difference with curiosity, and to meet difference with kindness. And those are things that I think we're working hard at fostering in the work that we both do, and the different people that I imagine have these conversations with you. That's what we're doing. We want to invite that kindness and curiosity to meet difference. And it took me a long time, and I'm still working on it, being okay with being who I am. I've always been vocal, but maybe not using it in the ways that I should. I think actually, because of a tough childhood, I wasn't, I only really expressed myself through theatre and through writing, you know, through storytelling, and I guess through sports as well. Anything that I could do physically. I think it was around the age of 16 that I started finding the words to share my actual thoughts, my actual feelings. And again, that was a whole process in discovering different wonderful women who, you know, would write their schools of thought that I feel like I learned from Bell Hooks, Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, learning from their writings as well. All of those to help me. Flora Nwapa, to find that there was the first, I think, Nigerian woman to be published, Flora Nwapa, and to read Efuru and think here she was writing in the way that she wanted to write. Zora Neale Hurston wrote in the manner that she liked to write in. And at the time, the publishers would think, well, why are you writing like that? Yet I read it now and it gives me permission to write the way that I write, or to be the kind of person I want to be. So every day I'm having to meet myself and be comfortable with being different. It's hard on social media. A lot of my work and my platform I built on social media, and initially I think people found it maybe a bit abrasive and, oh, you're so angry, and don't have all of those opinions, until the opinions mattered and people wanted to hear more of those opinions. And so that's why I I think it just came to me. I was inspired about this idea of being a Wellington boot, that someday things are going to make sense, and maybe not immediately, and maybe not to everyone. It's not that one day you're going to wake up and magically everybody gets who you are and likes who you are. But hopefully one day and the days that follow, you wake up, you get who you are, and you like who you are. And I feel like that's the most important thing.
Exactly, and I think that's a very strong message there for children, that not everybody's going to like you. I think that is super important, because so many children, um, in terms of coming from immigrant, migrant backgrounds, feel that they have to fit in, that they want everybody to like them. But the world's not like that. And I think it's important to be comfortable with who you are. And even if I go back to my childhood, that was a struggle. But I think now, as you so rightly say, for children now, for this generation coming through, they're able to feel comfortable about themselves. And coming back to your childhood, did you have a favourite children's book?
I don't know if I had a favorite children's book, but I really enjoyed the Goosebumps series. There was just something like eerie, scary about it, that it makes so much sense that those are the kind of books that I liked. When I think about what I write now, in terms of, apart from Strong Like Me, writing speculative fiction and sci-fi, it makes sense that that's what caught my eye, the whole Goosebumps series.
Exactly, yeah. I could actually see you reading that in your little world. So here we are, Strong Like Me. Yeah. What a beautiful cover, and I love the way she's got her hands on her hips there,
It's ready for
saying,
anything.
I'm ready for you. And illustrated by the wonderful Michaela Diaz-Hayes.
Yes.
And we've got a lovely quote there from Dapo as well on the front cover, who we need to give props to for everything he's done in the children's book world. So just to give us a short summary of this wonderful book.
Kamara is wonderful. She's so full of life and she loves being active. She's super strong. She loves exploring. And what she's met with are friends and people who don't quite understand her strength. They feel a bit intimidated by her strength. And then she has to find another type of strength within herself to be okay with that and know that she's wonderful and that they are also wonderful, and everybody has different strengths and everybody kind of moves through the world in their own way and deserves to be celebrated for that. But she needs to celebrate herself. And that's really the message for Kamara, to keep being strong in her own way, and in many ways that strength can present itself. And sometimes that's with vulnerability.
Exactly. And I think that's a wonderful. And I think there's another message in this book around girls playing sports. I think, do you want to just elaborate on that a bit further?
Yeah, I mean, Kamara speaks to a younger version of me. I was always very physically active. I was the head of sports for as long as I can remember. I was an air cadet at some point as well, and when I was an air cadet, I was also captain of the sports team there as well. I just really loved it, but I had to keep ignoring and like tuning down the people who would say, "Girls aren't meant to do that. Girls aren't meant to do that. You shouldn't be doing that. You're acting like a boy," and all of these things. And which was interesting to me to hear that just by playing sports, I was automatically acting like a boy. And the stats show us, in terms of the statistics, they show us that girls drop out of sports at a very early age because of messaging like this, that they're not meant to be doing this, it's not for them. So I really wanted to encourage all children to understand that girls belong wherever they say they are, and they belong in sports, and they belong in being great at sports, and they should get to explore too.
Absolutely. And like myself, I wasn't very sporty. And stereotypical, I've got four brothers who are very sporty, and I wonder why that is. It's because of those messages about being in the home as a girl, and stereotypical women are doing this, men are doing that. And hopefully that's what I like about Strong Like Me. It's okay for girls to do sports, and coming back again to that identity point. Beautiful. And anything else in Strong Like Me that you think it's really important that comes through as a strong theme in the book?
Definitely for me, it's the matriarchs in Strong Like Me, Kamara's mom, but more specifically, Kamara's auntie. So Kamara's auntie, Auntie Linda, is actually based on my Auntie Linda, who's now passed away. And she introduced me to so many different things. I am the person I am, with all of my quirks and all of these things, because of my Auntie Linda. And there's something to be said for those who don't necessarily have a nuclear family. It's not mum, dad, you know, and you and your siblings. It might be your mum, maybe your siblings as well, and an auntie or uncles or cousins or grandmas. Just there are other people who come into your life and make it just as rich. And I really wanted to kind of pay respect to that there are different types of ways for us to have strong, beautiful families.
Exactly. And I think in terms of the books that I write, it's very much about the family because I had my grandmother who I was quite close to, aunts, godparents, cousins, etc. And I think that's very, again, that children are able to celebrate who's in their families. There are some children who may just live with one parent,
Yes.
and other children live who are adopted, who are fostered, and again, that they're able to share their stories in terms of their family background. Beautiful. Do you have a favorite page of the book?
Yes, my favorite page of the book is where Kamara is speaking with her Auntie Linda, and she's upset because people have said some things to her leading up to Sports Day, and she's thinking maybe she shouldn't take part in Sports Day this year because everyone's saying that she always wins, and they're not too happy about that. And her Auntie Linda kind of scoops her up in a hug with her beads tickling her nose. And she says to her, "There's enough space for you in this world, just the same way there's enough space for all the stars in the sky. And everybody shines in different ways, and you should not dim your light for others. Just keep shining just as you are." And I feel like it's a message that I needed, and I think so many people need.
And I think for, as you so rightly said, for everybody, especially children, because I'm dyslexic. Probably I think in every podcast I share this. So if you don't know, you do know now I'm dyslexic. And for me, when I go into schools interacting with children, I say, is anybody dyslexic? Any children here? And sometimes children don't put their hands up. But then if I'm on one particular occasion, I was in the playground with the head teacher and a child came up to me and said, Laura, you know, when you said you were dyslexic, I'm dyslexic, but I didn't put my hand up. And I said, okay, then what do you like doing? And then she was talking about art and sport. And I just said, just focused on that. And coming back to your point, that stars, that everybody shines differently. Yeah. Everybody has a gift and a talent. And it's really important, I feel, that children know that from an early age, that you do have a gift, that you are talented.
Yeah. And there's so much to be discovered about ourselves. Some people's talents, you know, sometimes I go to the supermarket and I'm chatting with a cashier and I leave that conversation feeling so bright and happy. That's that person's talent that they can pass anybody and just give them a bit of their own light and off that person goes. So sometimes it's not necessarily a talent, like maybe somebody's drawing or maybe they're really good at football. It could be, but sometimes the talent, the gift could be just as simple as whenever people interact with you, they just leave a bit brighter.
Exactly. They're picking up that you're a kind person. Yeah. And that's amazing. And some people are good with their hands, some people are very sporty. And that's what I think coming out about Strong Like Me is that children will be able to have those conversations and identify, well, okay, then I'm really good at art. I'm really good at this. Look at the relationships that come out of the theme from Strong Like Me. Yeah. So if you was to bat it back to you here, Kelechi, with this question, if you was interviewing yourself, what question would you ask yourself about this book?
Oh, I would say, what do I think is Kamara's greatest strength? And so if I was going to answer that, I would say that it's actually Kamara's kindness. I think that kindness is an incredible strength, and sometimes it's so hard to maybe be kind sometimes when somebody has been unkind to you. And Kamara has to learn that. She has to find the strength to be kind towards people who haven't necessarily been kind to her. And in our everyday lives, maybe we need more of that around the world.
Exactly. And I think in terms of there's so many different things going on in the world now, so many conversations, and it's just about that kindness and about being fair and how you as a child can be kind to somebody in your class. If you go to an activity out of school, how can you be kind to somebody else? And take it a bit further and being kind to somebody that you've never met before, another child who you see, oh, that child's by themselves, how can I go and talk to them and make sure that they feel included? Because a lot of children don't feel included. That's fantastic. What do you want children to learn from this book, Kelechi?
I want children to learn that it's okay to be different. I want children to learn that it's okay for girls to be strong. I want children to learn that it's okay to be kind and to take your time with kindness, even if it doesn't come to you straight away. And that it's okay to talk about how you feel. Like it's so important to have somebody, an adult, that you can talk to about how you feel. And so they can hold that space for you on the days where you're not so happy, but they understand. And even if they don't have lots of words to say to you that might make you feel better, just their presence, just by the fact that you got to share what you were feeling, I think that that's really, really important. So I hope that more children know that they should have somebody that they can share their feelings with.
Exactly. And it's coming back to that community aspect. It could be a teacher, it could be a teaching assistant, it could be the grown-up who they live with at home, an aunt, etc. And that's very important that every child's able to share their feelings. I'm feeling angry today. And I always say it's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel sad, to be upset if somebody's been mean to you. If you're happy to share that. and giving children the opportunity, the space to label their feelings, you know?
Absolutely. And I think it's so important what you said there about the opportunity. I think that oftentimes children, young people aren't afforded choice. It's like choices are made for them. You're going to wear this today. You're going to go to this school. You're going to read this today. You're going to do this. This is what you're eating today. And to have choice is really healthy. And sometimes the only choices we have are our emotions. So to then be told, oh, you can't feel that right now because that's not good or it's not right, that's unfair. We should be able to explore our emotions safely because that's how we learn more about who we are.
Absolutely, absolutely. So exploring our emotions, and I feel that's a wonderful way to finish this fantastic interview, Kelechi. And thank you, Kelechi, for sharing your words of wisdom. It's been an absolute pleasure. You can read Strong Like Me. And I always say, remember to use your local library if you can, because it's free. And adding to that, as Claudia and Tess say on Strictly Come Dancing, they say, keep dancing. I always say, keep reading. So thank you, Kelechi.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. This podcast was woven in partnership with our friends at Tapestry, the childhood education platform. They have kindly devised the educational resources for each podcast interview. Tapestry helps you celebrate children's learning, improve communication with families, and streamline your admin with powerful booking, invoicing, and management tools, giving you more time for what matters, the children and you. Visit tapestry.info to find out more. This podcast series was recorded at the Quick Brown Fox Video Production Studios in Wandsworth Town, London, with top-notch equipment and a knowledgeable team who are always happy to help. Recording our podcast has been a breeze.